need you to understand that makes impact mentoring different is that this is an interdisciplinary program. So for me, this isn't just about using you as tools to improve retention. I want you to understand that mentoring has 3,000 years of history as a best practice to bring out the best in people. And I want you to see how complex it is. The reason I want you to see that is because when you write this as an example on your resume, as a job you had, and all you write is, I was a mentor and I helped people, you are diminishing the scope of the work you did because you are going to be doing education. You're going to be involving psychology. You're going to be demonstrating communication skills, management skills, coping skills. So for you to understand that this isn't just like me being, the proverbial hard ass and asking you to make this job more complicated. I know for a fact, and so does Fatima, that because we put so much expectation and intention on you to do this well, you are going to move in the world much better prepared to do many other things than other people who are just randomly sitting around helping people with their homework. Some people do just need to be helped with their homework, but that's not what this is, okay? So I want you to understand, like mentoring starts from ancient Greece. That's how far back this goes, right? Starts with people like Aristotle and the Iliad and the Odyssey and Homer describing that, those who are the mentors of young heroes is a phrase that he coined. He uses the word mentors to teach and coach and guide. And that's really what we do. Sometimes we're more coaches, sometimes we're more guides, sometimes we're teachers. And you've got to be able to pivot to bring out the best in someone. It could be in an apprenticeship kind of a formation. It could just be a personal support thing. It could be you're teaching someone how to cope better and navigate their worlds. But it all starts from ancient philosophy, right? And then Homer was an influence on Aristotle and Socrates. He was an influence on Socrates, and Socrates influenced Aristotle, and Aristotle influenced Plato, or Plato influenced Aristotle, I forget the order. But there's a long line of these people, and today what we're left with is famous sayings that are credited to these men who are at the very beginning of mentoring. So when someone's quote that they're best known by is knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom, by this guy who was alive like 4,000 plus years ago, 6,000 plus years ago, sorry, because this is before Common Era. He learned that because he was mentored by Socrates, Plato. That's how good Plato was. He was OG good. Or if you have someone that says, know thyself, that's his wisdom that he laid on these guys. That's all he said, 2 words, know thyself. And that changed everything. And then those, oh my God. And then they opened up other people. Someone else, I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. So these are the words of the ancients that come down on this train track of mentoring. It is part of our tradition. So when we talk about inspiring quotes and what makes people motivated to learn, knowing yourself is where it all begins, right? Be as you wish to be seen, right? So we want to become what we hope others will see in us, okay? I talked about this, right? Obviously, it's all about these guys, philosophy. Aristotle took it another step farther. Aristotle was the guy who realized that the best way for people to learn is by doing. And that's the reality of impact mentoring. We're going to lay all this knowledge on you for the next 6 days. You can't possibly learn it all. And you're not going to remember it all. You just can't. But what we are going to help you do is learn how to find stuff. Learn to be comfortable not knowing. Learn how to problem solve. Because you're going to have to learn to mentor by doing. Many other programs are going to give you a script. This is what you do in week 1. Here it is. Go through this, boom, boom, boom. You've done your job. And that's great. And for people who need structure, it's very helpful. But I can't tell you that I'm working with someone who wants to learn how to work their resume. I may have a job already. I don't know how to do my resume right now. I'm failing math. I want to get a scholarship. My boyfriend just broke up with me, or whatever is going on, right? The agenda we set for someone else, in my opinion, disrespects the fact that they're the customer, right? They used to have this whole thing about personal shopping, where someone else would pick out the clothes you buy. Some people, I remember some people were like, you're gonna tell me what I'm gonna buy? I'm here to tell you what I want to buy, right? So we want to learn and impact to be responsive and to ask the questions, what does this person need from me? How can I meet that need, right? So we want to learn about being aware of how we're learning, being aware that we're going to be experiencing as we're learning. That's really important for you to know. And some of you may live in a constant state of anxiety because you're not sure if you're doing a good job or not. So even Narisha, I'm going to call that Narisha now because Paulo already told me I called her too many times. Narisha isn't sure she's a good mentor. Do you want to know why? Not one of her mentees got back to her all fall semester. Not one. Nobody. And she's not the only one. But I'm making her laugh now because someone in that situation, of course, they're like, do I smell? Am I horrible? Am I the worst? But like, you're going to tell yourself all kinds of craziness because you have no information, right? So if you don't know who you are and what you have to offer, that is an unbearable state of being. So my job and Katunia's job is to teach you to be okay with what you have to offer and that you know what you need to know. And that if you can't solve someone's problem, you at least can sort of be okay with not being the savior of that moment, okay? And that's why we're spending time talking about this. You're gonna have mentees who may say, I'm living in a household where I get beat up by my spouse all the time. Or, you know, I'm homeless right now. Or, you know, my father is addicted to drugs or whatever. Everyone's unemployed. They're gonna lay stuff on you because of that trust thing that we talked about, right? And you're like, oh my God, like in your heart, it's gonna hurt because what do I do? What do I do? How do I help? You can't help that. You can make referrals, you can hear them, you can be supportive, but we can't solve every problem and make it better for everybody. So the job is for you to be okay with understanding, okay, this is what's going on. What does this person need from me? And thinking about it. That's what metacognition is, learning how you learn. So you need to be in a state of being where you can be responsive to whatever the mentees are going to bring to you and think about that. And that also goes back to these mission facts, right? The cycle of experiential learning is that, especially for those of you that are new, probably until March, you're going to feel like you have no idea what's going on. I'm just flat out like you. You're gonna be like, wait a minute, I don't even know what's happening. Like, should I call them back? I called them 3 times, they didn't get back to me. Should I call them again? Should I email them now? What do I do? You're constantly gonna feel anxious, right? So you have to think of what you're gonna do, then you try it, then you reflect on it, then you redefine it. Okay, so that's the cycle. We're gonna constantly be trying things, seeing if they work, how'd that go, try something else. Okay. That's called experiential learning, okay? I'm gonna skip this part, but it's important that you realize that's the foundation of our program, right? Mentoring is a synergistic relationship. What that means is that you're not just a mentor with all the answers to knows it all. You're being mentored in this program. We learn from each other. I'm gonna give you a short break really soon. But the 3 most important things that I need you to understand about mentoring for impact is that there are 3 main components. We want it to be developmental, meaning that you're coming from different levels of knowledge or life experience or profession, right? It's experiential, meaning that it is not a state of being, it is a process you engage in. It is mutual, it is relational. And it is interdisciplinary, meaning that it's a little of everything. Yes, you're going to give career advice. Yes, you might have to do some academic support. Yes, people are going to feel things with you. If all you're worried about is, can I help you get a 4.0? And your mentee cries, and you're dying in something, she's like, oh my God, somebody's crying. You got to get over that because somebody might need to have a cry. It's okay. And likewise, if you're a nursing student and you got a million mentees who want to be in the nursing program, they're like, then help me pass organic chemistry. I need to get into the nursing program. Well, that's great, except he barely passed it himself, and he's good in bio. That's not his subject. He can't help you. So you can't be all things to all people. You have to realize that your skills are yours. And we each have different levels of knowledge and domains that we're good in. But that's why we want to strengthen our relationships. They might say, look, I know I'm in the nursing program, I'm happy to help you, but you know who's really good at orgo? I am. It's really good. I'd say Paulo, but he's in my bio class. We're both like crying over that testing. He would be a good guy. Whatever. But you know someone who is. Oh, you want to be an ASAP? I'm not an ASAP, but I know Alana's an ASAP, or I know whatever. So you know about each other makes for more knowledge that you can share. Okay?
I often think back to the important relationships I've had in my life. Specifically, I'm talking about those mentors who have helped me along my journey. Many of you in this room may know the relationship I'm talking about. I am a proud first-generation college student who navigated a new college language and environment entirely and almost all on my own. It was lonely and isolating at times. I didn't know what I didn't know until Susan. Susan was that person for me. She was my supervisor as part of a learning community program I was a part of at my undergraduate institutions. More importantly, she was my mentor. It might have been the cultural connection we shared, or our love for Frida Kahlo, or perhaps it was that the first time somebody at the institution I was at took an interest in me and in my success. She was, in every depiction of the word, a mentor. She contacted me. She made sure I was being academically successful. And more importantly, she followed through. Looking back, I often reflect and ask myself, was I a good mentee? Did I demonstrate good mentorability in a relationship that is still very strong today? So I want to start off by asking you these questions. When was the last time you were in a mentoring relationship? What was the experience like? Did you know what to expect? Did you know how to engage in that partnership? And did you understand your role and responsibility as a mentee? Chances are that entering into that developmental relationship, you may have perceived it to be one-directional. You know, the traditional way of what we think a mentoring relationship is supposed to do. At the end of the day, the mentor is supposed to provide knowledge down to the mentee and helping them become a successful protege. And yes, that's what mentoring relationships are intended to do, but it's so much more than that. To fast forward about 15 years, I was at the Texas Mentoring Summit Conference in San Antonio when I first heard Dr. Rich Reddick mention the term mentorability. I had never heard the term before. In my many years of working with mentoring, I had never heard it used in this context, and it changed the narrative of how I saw mentoring partnerships. It put the ownership and the emphasis back on the mentee. And that's what mentorability is all about. By definition, the term mentorability is the ability to engage in mutually beneficial and rewarding developmental relationships. When we think about mentoring, we think about malleable mindsets and changing and inspiring the lives of others. But how many times do we shift that mindset and think, how mentorable are we? That we are engaging and being receptive to somebody else who's more experienced, and that reciprocity is a decisive contributor to that partnership. As Reddick described mentorability, I sat back in my chair and thought, gosh, could it really be that simple? Are we really missing the mark in how we engage in mentoring partnerships? Are we not doing a good job of preparing mentees for the onset of the partnership? So I did what everybody does when they don't understand the term. I went home and I Googled it. To my surprise, Google search yielded very little results. And even today, when I type mentorability into Microsoft Word, there's a red squiggly line indicating that the word is not a word. So I left intrigued. I was inspired at this point. So I started doing a research with a colleague of mine, Zachary Taylor, and our first study examined 187 mentoring programs at all four-year public institutions in Texas. We found that mentoring programs were 4 times more likely to address the roles and responsibilities of the mentor than they were the mentee. After our data analysis, I thought, wow, considering that most mentoring programs rely heavily on the mentee's development as a programmatic outcome, we're not doing a really good job of preparing mentees for that partnership. We're not telling them what to expect. We're not sharing the message on mentorability. In other words, no one is talking to the mentees. But that changes today. I'm here to share a message with you right here, right now. I'm inspired to inspire you. I want you to transform your next mentoring partnership. We spend our lives in developmental and transformational relationships. Whether they're personal, professional, or spiritual, we are continuously learning and growing from others. But how do we maximize these opportunities when these organic and formal relationships happen? How do we make the most out of the experience? Mentorability is the willingness to understand that we grow from others as others grow from us. And that starts by understanding our commitment, reciprocity, and vulnerability. So first, be committed. Don't just show up. Be present both physically and mentally, time after time. We spend so much time today in the digital space, and that's okay. If you are engaging with your mentor in whether it's social media, text messaging, or email, there's nothing wrong with that. But be prompt in your response and be proactive in how you engage in that partnership. And when that face-to-face occurs, because it inevitably will, make it memorable. Start by asking, what do I hope to gain from these few minutes of time with a more experienced individual? Why am I investing the time? I mean, this person is making time for me. Your mentor is making time for you. When I think about the students I have honestly had the honor of mentoring, the ones that spend the time, the ones that are committed, the ones that take the initiative, those are the ones I still engage with frequently. We all live very busy lives, but what you can do is you can stay accountable, you can be committed, you can do your part. Commitment is the first step in assessing your own mentorability. Second, we are all a sum of our experiences. It is our experiences that shape who we are in this moment of time. When we enter into a mentor-mentee relationship, you must understand that that relationship is two-directional, meaning it's not the traditional one-way directional relationship we thought it to be. Your life experiences and what you bring to the partnership can truly help it be an exchange, a partnership, where both of you are learning from the experience. When I think about mentorability and specifically reciprocity, I think of April. April was a graduate student of mine who I mentored and supervised for about 1.5 years. She came to my office and she sat down and we talked about life. We talked about relationships. We talked about her academics and what the next career step was for her. But we also talked about supervision and her leadership style. Each time she talked, I often thought about the situation she left. I reflected on that particular advice I gave her. Would I have handled it that way? Could I have done something differently? She brought a new perspective to my own leadership and my own supervision. I'm a better mentor, leader, and person because of her and the mentees I have had the privilege of working with and the reciprocity they brought to my partnership. And finally, vulnerability. It is very hard to change something about who we are, much less change because somebody is advising or suggesting us to. Think back to the last time you consciously made an effort to change something about yourself. It's hard. As humans, we don't like to feel like we are not in control of our own lives. But mentors can provide a new perspective, a new way of how to handle life that can positively shape our world. But I understand and I know change can be hard. I mean, you as my mentor want me to change, but I've always done it this way, and you want me to do it differently? I have had an honor talking about mentorability at various conferences, and I've asked practitioners, scholars, and students one question at the end of the presentations. And the question is, what is the one attribute, the one characteristic that mentees can bring to the mentoring partnership that can make it thrive? Each time, in multiple settings, 100 miles apart, every group has said being open-minded, being vulnerable, being willing to change, being transparent. I would argue being vulnerable and open-minded are the two biggest contributing factors to how mentorable we are. So next time you enter into a developmental relationship, or you re-examine the one you're in right now, think about these questions. Are you committed and willing to make time for the partnership? Do you understand the reciprocity you bring to the relationship? And are you truly willing to be open-minded and vulnerable to change? Today and moving forward, let's reimagine our willingness and commitment as a mentee. Let that commitment, reciprocity, and vulnerability shape and inspire your next developmental relationship. Mentorability is not a new phenomenon, but how we re-examine our own selves as a mentee to enter into the partnership can positively shape it to be better, actually make it thrive. So don't enter into the mentoring partnership, but actively live your own mentorability. Thank you.
All right, guys. So the reason we want you to spend some time thinking about mentorability is because in an experiential learning setting, we can't constantly wonder why mentees aren't calling us back. And we did so poorly in the fall, even though we've got a lot of other variables at play, like the pandemic, etc. If we're not willing to think about how are we as mentees being in this program, right? If we can't look at what some of the issues are for mentees, it becomes a thing that someone else is doing as opposed to something that we can shift. And we are all about shifting it instead of blaming it. So if we want things to be different, we've got to do things differently. We've got to become better mentees ourselves and more open with our willingness to take part in this, to inspire other mentees. That's why the mentees that are here who are now mentors, it's because they either had a really awful experience with their own mentor and are like, I would never want to put somebody through what I did. You don't even know. My poor mentor, bless their heart. That's how they come up to me. Bless their heart. I didn't even want to drop the program because I thought they'd be lost without me. We got that. I was like, oh Lord, I don't hear that. Or they're like, my mentor changed my life. Preach it. Right? My mentor is the bomb, the greatest, the whatever. They bring out all these superlatives. So we don't have the. And even the people who just want a job on campus, there's much easier job than this on campus. Just go pick up the phone, sit there, repeat a phone call 3 hours straight until your brain starts to ooze. But you're in and out. This is complicated. So most of the people here is because you really want to do it. So we want to get to the bottom so we can make you better mentors. So what about this back table? What came out of your conversation? I would like to share some brilliant insight.
I'll share. I would say one of the things that we talked about was how, having a mentor that believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself.
Having a mentor who believes in you, you didn't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing we discussed was also about, the expectations of being open-minded.
Being open-minded, yeah, expectations. So, and maybe I'm overstepping here, but I hope you're my people. There's nothing more annoying than someone who gives you a toxic pep talk that you don't want to hear. When they're like giving you, like, you're like, listen, my life's a mess. Come on, you can do it, just try. You know what, I'm gonna punch you right in the pie hole in a minute, right? Because you don't want to hear that, you know it. If you could do it, you could pick yourself up off the floor, you do it yourself, right? But when someone takes the time to see you, to know you, to tell you like, look, I know you're struggling right now, but I know that you can do this, right? And it's coming from their soul, like you can hear. You're like, all right, maybe I can, you know what, I'm gonna crawl, but I'm gonna keep moving, right? So that's the difference. Don't just say the words, you gotta be in it, right? So I want to close this out. Thank you for sharing. This is something I want you to remember. When we boil down everything with impact, a mentor is someone who, through their words and actions, helps someone achieve their potential. Okay? Now they're not gonna get in their potential and be like, hello, I'm here. I've achieved my potential. Thank you. I'm done. It's a wrap. We're on a continuum, right? So you know where your horizon is. And what we want to know is, are you closer there than when you started with us? Or maybe you turn left because something happened and now you're going to that horizon. That's cool too, but you know where you're headed, and your person that you're working with or this program is helping you move forward to further make progress to where you say you want to go. That's what mentoring is. It's not for us to say, we need you to turn south because this is where we're going. At least in our program and stuff. They're driving the car and you're helping them get there. Okay. All right. So we did talk about that. Just want to know my backgrounds. Really quick. This is going to be a follow-up on Google Classroom for you. So I just want to go over our major goals so that you know. All right. Things you need to know about what you're going to be trained to do over the next 6 days. You have 5 primary roles in impact. Some of you will be more comfortable with some roles, some of you will be better in some roles, but all of us need to be competent in all roles. You are going to be a role model and a brand ambassador. That means, as I said at the very beginning of the day, your impact. It doesn't matter to me if you're out in a nursing program, if you're an SGA, if you're wherever you are on campus, what's your impact, your impact. You're representing us, and anyone you meet is going to know that you're part of this program. So you got to conduct yourself as a brand ambassador. We want you to be a campus influencer. So what you do leads the way for others to do that too. So that means figuring out how to balance being involved in campus in the right amount that works for you, being a successful student, because being in every club in the world and getting a 0.01 GPA is not okay. You could be the friendliest, best leader in the world, but you've got to graduate. Okay. Also, pretending that you're the most positive together person in the world when your life is a shambles and never asking for help. It's also not okay, because we don't want people to feel stigmatized because they need some support and help. So you have to be willing to be like, I might have an issue. Right? It's coming. It's closer than it was yesterday. I will need to take some time.
The mics too.
The mic too. Right? So we've got to act as it. We've got to model the behavior. We've got to influence our peers in your classes. So I'm hoping, now I'm going to pick on Mohammed. I'm hoping that Mohammed, who is very quiet and polite by nature, except when he's with his friends, then he's the loud social butterfly. But I'm hoping when he's in class, he's not sitting in the back corner saying nothing, praying he doesn't get called on. He's going to be like, I'm an impact. I can do this. There's no impediment I have to raising my hand every now and then. I have a thought in my head. I think I'll say it out loud in the class. And as you move in your scholastic endeavors, don't be afraid to speak up and share your opinion, because you're a mentor now. Okay? We're expecting you to be able to do that. So you got to pick your moments. Okay? We also are expecting you to be a community builder. That means bringing people together. We're never going to out you. as whatever you are. That's why some of the things I put, I asked you about. So for example, I know there are other student parents in the room, but I'm not gonna assume that you want everybody up in your business. So if I know that a student parent as a mentee and is really struggling with that particular challenge of having kids and being a student and making it work, and she teaches like, hey, if you need someone to talk to them, I'm down. They call me. I know she's my girl, okay? Some of you may have other demographical information. You might say, we've had people in the past say, look, you know, I'm in the assist program. I'd be perfectly happy if someone needs this or that, or I'm a tutor also in a different part of my life. I'm happy to work with people who need this, that. You tell us, and then we will make you available. We're never going to put you out there as a token for any particular thing in the world. The one thing I will ask though, and I know Fatima and I haven't yet talked about it, but there is a specific strategic initiative about using alumni strategically as retention tools. So if you currently don't go to BNCC, we will probably have to hit you up to be ambassadors for your college and the transfer process to your college. So we've already been asked for like our Columbia people, our NYU people, our Baruch people, our Lehman people, Brooklyn, York, wherever you are. The college wants to plug you back in to say, hey, can you share your experience about what it was like to get from here to there? Does it start here? Right? Okay. We also want you to be not just a connector, but an ally and advocate. Some people live their lives in the shadows. And they're not ready to step out of the shadows, or they're not brave enough to step to the shadows. They need a voice. They need somebody who has privilege to speak for them or to share their concerns, but keep them protected. That's what being an advocate in an ally is I don't have to be the same as you to be someone who can lend you my strength and my voice. So we want to have you be more mindful of that. We're also going to have you be a campus resource person. So for most of the day tomorrow, it's going to be a marathon of different people talking to you about specific units of the college. I'm expecting you not to know everything as Jeff said, but you need to be attentive because you need to know what these resources are. We are streamlining as much as we can, and we will continue adding resources on our Friday meetings to add more into your arsenal of help, but you're the ones who need to know where to send people when they need help and what help there is available and who to see about that kind of help. So we need you to be attentive as people come in and be the gatekeeper that you are not the problem solver, you are the referral person. You are not the counselor, you want to connect them to the counseling center. You are not the immigration attorney, you're going to connect them to ARC or whatever it is, okay? So we're going to give you other stakeholder offices at the college so that you know who does what about the most, the ones we see the most frequently, okay? We also want you to be aware that you are going to be a student success coach. That doesn't mean you're a tutor, and you really shouldn't act as a tutor because tutors have to be certified by the OMC. However, most students don't do well for other factors that have nothing to do with their academic ability. It has to do with time management, or it has to do with energy management, setting priorities, action planning, follow through. So you coaching around the behaviors that enhance and support success, the mindset to orient and to feel empowered to be the one that can construct your own success, that's the work you're going to be doing, okay? So we want you to understand that you're not going to be a tutor, you're not going to be a friend. You may like some of your mentees, you may find them difficult to deal with. You still are their mentor. Not every mentoring experience is buddy-buddy, lifelong friends, ride or die. But that doesn't excuse you from communicating care and support and doing your 5 roles with them, connecting them to other people, doing whatever we said. And I want to sort of wrap this up by letting you know, I did pass out those handouts for you. We're going to post that on the discussion board because I want to give you the break in 2 minutes, but I am going to ask you to take those with you so that you're familiar with where we're going with this and in your own experience, what's been meaningful to you or made a difference for you, but we do want to see you reflect on that, okay? This is a job. You have a responsibility to respect your mentees' details and to keep them confidential. Please do not be confused on that point. We are bound by something called the Federal Educational Right to Privacy Act. You, as paid employees of the college or the foundation, are obligated to protect student confidential information and not disclose it to others, to not be talking about their particular situations. So that's why we do tracking logs. So as you step into this new role, I want you to take it seriously and honorably so that you understand you may be the lifeline for somebody else, and we have legal obligations and liability obligations so that we know how to report these things. That's the role that Tuna and I play. Okay, so when you're looking down that you're worried, we're going to act, we're going to intervene, we're going to put supports around that person, or whatever you're feeling. We're going to talk about logs in the future, but we want you to understand that all of these roles, they're constantly going to be going on, and we want you to embody what those are. Okay. For those of you that are alumni, I'm going to close by just saying, you may notice, even though there's a bunch of people online, and there's some people on the leadership team, there's a bunch of alumni that are not with the program beginning this semester. And it has nothing to do with whether it's women and I like them. But we take our job very seriously. And at the point where people just like what they get out of the program, but have stopped giving back constructively to the program, as contributing members of the BNCC community, you got to be in this community and part of it and wanting to be here. That's when we have to give the spot away to someone new who's waiting to be hired. So the alumni are here, and those that are coming and will be in and out for classes and everything else, they're here because they still have their hearts all in this program. It's made a difference to them, and they want to be part of it. So just because they're connected in a different way than college, you can still count on them for this. Okay. So thanks for listening. I'm going to give you that 10-minute break now. Take a stretch break. Christina Wazak is here, is presenter from OSA. So we're going to focus on you as leaders and getting some energy up when we get back. And that's it for my presentation. So take a look.